Today on CarTraction, for the first time in 2025, I am at the brilliant Bicester Sunday Scramble, and I don't quite know how we haven't managed to get here this year so far. There are hundreds of quite high-end cars actually here today. It's one of those events where you get some really tasty stuff. Only just got here, but look at this, an absolutely stunning race-prepared Series 1 E-Type fixed head coupe and a roadster just there. And this is going to be an interesting one because the theme of today, there's a slight theme gathering of RESTOMODS, which is re-engineering an old car, tuning it up, but with period parts, which is one of the best things in my opinion you can do with old cars. So there's going to be some really cool stuff here today, and I'm very much looking forward to having a quick whiz around. There's so many different sections, so much to see, the Bicester Heritage, and yeah, there's just going to be an amazing day of really nice cars, probably one of the best car events in the UK. So without any more yapping, let's just see what gems we can find. Now, before we go into the main section of the Bicester Heritage Centre, as I said, we've got some very nicely prepared Jaguar E-Types, steel wheels, and there's going to be so much more. And also on the end down here is a stunning Derby Bentley, early to mid 1930s, very much a surprisingly achievable dream car really. These are the sort of cars that everyone keeps banging on about, sort of struggling in buyers and prices, but I've said this before and I'll say it again, as a young enthusiast in pre-war cars, I am more than happier to see the somewhat dramatic softening in values of pre-war cars. Jaguar S-Type 3.8S, very nicely sorted car. And we're just at the back of those stunning E-Types. We've got a few veterans around here as well. A lovely, really original looking Rolls Royce there, a couple of veterans, and this looks like it has some potential. A Rolls Royce chassis with, admittedly, a Rolls Royce engine, but a Rolls Royce aero engine. Looks very similar to the sort of thing you'd usually find in a Spitfire. I'm sure that will go pretty well once it's all linked up. The last Bicester Sunday Scramble also sees the return of the fantastic Auto Jumble, which is absolutely worth a look around. Now in this section we have a brilliant showing of various generations of M Motorsport, of course. BMWs, the favourites of mine, the Z4M Coupe, and this is the new M5, an absolutely huge car. My favourite, a close second, is the E30 M3, but it has to be that really gorgeous E9 3-litre CSL. What a car, known as the Batmobile for the body kit. Very successful car in motorsport as well, and the distinctive spoiler on the back of that. But I think this is the RESTOMOD section, which is interesting to have a look around. We've got Eagle E-Types here, possibly some of the best cars in the world, and there's the TWR Supercat over there, and of course a Renault 5, one of the most talked about cars of the year really. There's some very tasty cars around here. Got the new Morgan Super 3, the first Morgan three-wheeler to have an extra cylinder. Of course, usually they have a V-twin, an S&S motorbike engine. Now they've moved to a Ford three-cylinder, which sounds sort of quite, I don't know, what Morgans are sort of always about the V-twin engines, and I agree with that, but I hear actually very good things about the three cylinders in those, and this is a proper original Morgan there. This is a car I've seen going sideways around Alton Park quite a few times. A very tastefully prepared Mark 1 Ford Escort, done up in the Allen Mann Racing Limited livery. And Bicester has a great showing of new cars, new car releases, and their original cars. And this is the iX3, and this is the Neue Klasse. So I'm guessing this one, you can see some of the design cues from the original Neue Klasse BMW. There's one of these quite close to our house, just rotting away in a car park, but this one does look very smart. Look at this, resto-modded 911s. So many companies are doing resto-mods and 911s, I don't even know which particular company this one is. That's certainly, Theon Design 911, another one of the many companies putting their mark on the classic 911 design. BMW Z8, two BMW Z8s, glorious cars, made famous of course in the James Bond film. These are really cool retro styling, a 90s interpretation of the BMW 507 Roadster from the 1950s I think that was, and this is obviously 90s, stunning Stunning car, and you've just got the Alan Mann Racing Ford Escort over there. Moving on to another RESTOMOD company, Alphaholics here, and they've brought along their really rather beautiful little Junior, re-engineered, tuned up, souped up. Wonderful wide steel wheels. They barely fit in the arches, to be honest, but they just looks fantastic on this little Italian saloon. That looks brilliant. I'm sure the only negative thing about all these RESTOMODs is the prices are eye-watering, and you know, a presentable Giulia Super 1.6 like this might be 30 or 40,000, I don't know, but I imagine an Alphaholics re-engineered one will be quite a bit more. But then again, they are wonderful, wonderful cars. This is also a very interesting car over here. It's an Atalanta. I don't know whether this is a continuation or whether it's actually an original car. One of the most highest quality but also unknown sports car manufacturers of the day. This is an Atalanta 2 Sports Seater. Dad actually knows quite a bit about Atalanta because our Dodge race car transporter for the twin supercharged Alpha, before he got the Dodge, he had a separate trailer for the Alpha, which we also have, and that one of the tow cars for that was an Atalanta. I believe that one was like a coupe saloon. This one is a roadster. I think this might be like a continuation, to be honest. I didn't know these existed. I did not know there was a continuation Atalanta, but really, really rare car. And it has got the RESTOMOD cues of, say, disc brakes all round, so it has got subtle upgrades and updates. I imagine it's putting out a little bit more power than the original would have done. And I've never seen an original. And I don't know, I'm guessing this has got a couple of slightly more modern cues in the interior, so I think this is either a continuation or a RESTOMOD. I think this is another Theon Design 911. Stunning, stunning looking car. Over here is the TWR Supercat, another car that the internet has been raving about. It came out, I don't know, maybe last year. Fantastic interpretation of the classic XJS V12 TWR. Used to race prepare and very successfully race the old XJSs and all sorts of Jaguars and Le Mans and all sorts of places, but this is a modern interpretation of that classic design. V12 up front. I think these run about 650 brake horsepower, wide body, left-hand drive, interestingly. One of very, very few. I imagine this is their press car. Carbon fibre absolutely everywhere. Stunning, stunning looking car, stunning sounding car. Seen a few people driving these online and they look absolutely unbelievable. Must be such an assault on the senses, and a gorgeous looking car with the performance to match the wild, wild looks. But I think there's still a lot to see, but these may be my favourite cars that we'll see all of today. Eagle became very famous pretty much on Top Gear when they featured the Eagle Speedster. I'm not sure whether there's a Speedster here. This is the Eagle Low Drag GT, and Eagle redesign the classic Jaguar E-Type shapes and update them. For example, these have 4.7 litre XK straight sixes as opposed to the original 3.8s and 4.2s. This is an Eagle Lightweight GT or something similar to this one. This, of course, is the stunning low drag. I think these retail at about over £800,000, maybe even a little bit more than that, but they are absolutely stunning. RESTOMODs, updated versions of the original cars. I think they are based on original E-Types. I don't know that much about them, to be honest, but they produce something crazy like 450 brake horsepower. One of the Theon 911s is fired up, but the low drag GT, very successful car at Le Mans, one of the best looking cars. This is the very first production Eagle lightweight GTR, based on the lightweight E-Type. Just that little bit wider and beefier and more powerful and maybe more reliable, considering it's all been gone through by an E-Type specialist. I know I've spent a while on the classic Jags already, and there's going to be so much more to see, but they are just the most stunning, jaw-dropping cars. Another one of the most talked about cars, and I think car of the year recently as well, the Renault 5 modern electric interpretation of the classic Renault shape. And also, these E-Types weighed roughly 900 kilograms, and that power and those looks and that weight, just driving nirvana, that must be. And this is also a really incredible car, VW Beetle, but the wide arches and wild proportions give pretty clear hints, to be honest, to the fact that this, I believe, has a V6 engine, a VR6 engine. I think it's in the front of it. It looks like the sort of thing that could be mid-engined or rear-engined, but I think it's in the front. Let's see what else we can find. So many gems just dotted around. A very, very early production Porsche 928 with those fantastic alloy Porsche wheels there. What a gorgeous setting the old World War II airfield and its original buildings is for a wonderful car event like today. Alfa Romeo Giulia, absolutely love the design. Lancia Fulvia, another wonderful looking car in white over there. Saw Fulvia going the wrong way on the motorway actually, so it must be another event on for that old Lancia owner. Another either modified or resto modded. It's a bit of a vague term, to be honest, resto mod. Another lovely 911 Porsche, Audi R8, and a very cool livery, retro livery like the early 90s Group A rally cars on that particular Toyota Yaris. It's safe to say this is a pretty popular event. TD-Bar Supercats, what a car. There might still be a couple more resto mods to have a look at. There's just so many different avenues and places to go down at the Bicester Scramble. I believe this over here may well be... No, it is not actually. I thought it was an Eagle Speedster, but this is another Jaguar E-Type resto mod. This is Unleashed by E-Type UK. Never seen this car before. Another, similar to the Eagle, to be honest, classic resto mod, but interestingly a resto mod based upon the Series 3 platform, which is something I have not seen before. The Series 3 coming with, of course, the Jaguar 5.3 V12, and the 5.3 V12 in this one looks pretty nicely sorted. Set of throttle bodies on there, so much more. 6.1, wow, that's been bought out quite a bit by E-Type UK, this resto mod. Many design cues similar to the Eagles, but the Eagles obviously focus on the Series 1 E-Type, so it's really cool to see a resto modded and properly souped up Series 3. There's been a lot of Jag content early on in the video. We came in our Jaguar XJ8 today, best long distance car we have really. 911 turbo and a lovely spec with that tan interior and green exterior. Trying for tests, 2 litre. Could argue coming back down to earth a little bit without insulting the car, of course. I do love a Vitesse, and they're actually really fast cars. Alfa Romeo 8C, lovely, lovely. Probably about 15 years old now. It actually still looks fresh, that design, doesn't it? V8 up front in those, 124 Fiat Abarth Spider, and the original Fiat 124 Spider next to it. This one I think does have some Mazda MX-5 Mark IV DNA, and then it's been reworked and retuned by Abarth, and we can see over there the back of the Z8 and that lovely Alphaholics tuned Giulia Super. And this is the original Pininfarina designed 124, and we've got another resto mod here. I don't know whether this is a new release, but I certainly haven't seen it before. It's based on the MGA Roadster platform, but we do have a twin cam 4-cylinder motor in that one. 225 brake horsepower, 815 kilograms dry weight. Those are some pretty impressive stats, and that looks really rather impressive. MGA proper resto mod. I should also mention this has been modified by Frontline, an MG specialist on site here at Bicester. I've seen their modified MGBs before, but I've not seen a modified MGA. Now this is an interesting car, and another car that everyone has been absolutely raving about online. This is a Rocketeer, which is a Mazda MX-5 Mark I resto mod, and the most obvious and headline change that's been made to this car, there are lots of little changes, but the most headline one and dramatic one is the Jaguar V6 engine up front in it. And actually I believe that engine in that state of tune weighs less than the original twin cam 4-cylinder like in our California at home, but of course produces far more power. Sounds wonderful. I've seen a video of this, the MX V6. There you go, that's a great name, isn't it? What a brilliant interior as well. Quality finish on this car. Looks brilliant in that sort of, I don't know what to call it, sort of peachy orange, but that car is said to be one of the best driving cars ever. Yeah, wonderful sound. I'd like to hear that one running, and I'd like to hear a lot of the cars here running today. Wouldn't hear this one running though. The new Fiat Panda Electric. This is cool, a Skoda Octavia from 1964. Only place I'm going to see one of these, I think, Bicester Scramble. You got some real rarities coming out, and this is certainly one of them. A really good looking little car, actually. It almost looks older than 1964, actually. It almost looks late 50s, but really cool looking little car, actually. And you'd know whenever you go to an old car event, there won't be another one, and if there was another one, you'd probably have a heart attack from the excitement. I imagine it may well be the only one in the UK. We've actually got some vintage bikes for decoration on this wall over here, but also serving as a very nice bit of decoration. I don't even know what this is. Oh, it is. Ooh, this is interesting. On first glance, this looks to be a... This is an interesting one. This looks to be a Alvis TD21, which is a absolutely gorgeous two-door ash frame, being an Alvis actually, 6-cylinder classic British coupe. But this is an Alvis special. Now I know the Alvis name is currently being resurrected in the UK. There's the Alvis Car Company, and they're resurrecting the name, and they are building continuation cars of the classic Alvis models. There's no information board, unfortunately, but that might be what we're looking at here. It looks absolutely stunning. I'm not sure, is it Italian designed? That is so gorgeous, but I have a feeling this may well be a continuation. It may well be a one-off. Yeah, there's a lot of differences with this to the standard TD. Lovely sort of dials that stand out proud from the dash. It's a lot of subtle differences to a typical TD, this one. And twin exhaust pipes as well. There's another Alvis over there, which is a really unusual one, a Graber Super. We'll look at that in a moment. This one's just badged up as an Alvis Special, and it looks, as I said, very similar to a TD21, which is one of my achievable dream cars, really, but some very, very tastefully done different styling cues. And this is a very unusual Alvis, really unusual cut-off back tail design, a Graber Super Alvis, this one in left-hand drive form. And I wonder if this is also one of the Alvis Car Company's continuations. Wow. What a wild looking car. This has stacked headlights not dissimilar to the TE and TF21 models, but it's sort of blended in a much more elegant way. It almost looks like a Pagoda SL Mercedes at the front there, and it's got this lovely, beautifully shaped chrome surround around that grille, and I love those slats. That's very Ferrari, that style of slats, actually. That is... Wow, yeah, they look very Italian. I don't know whether they look sort of Pininfarina designed cues. They're obviously a British car, but really unusual pair. I think they might be the continuation models, but I don't know. But this one for me, whew, what a car that is. Over here we've got a great trio of classic Italians, two Fiat 500s with some fantastic moped trailers. These look to be custom built Vespa trailers mounted on the back with, of course, the compulsory Vespa on the back. Very lovely restored little cars, these. Actually, they're in beautiful condition. The two Fiat 500s, which is the sort of design that you think of the Fiat 500, and then this is also Fiat 500, but this is known as the Topolino. This is actually a late Topolino. They made them in the pre-war period as well, so this one will be just post-war, and a very similar sized engine, but of course in the front of those, you hear the rumble of that. The latest generation BMW M2 is one of the buildings which unfortunately suffered a fire recently, and I think a couple of cars might have perished in that, unfortunately, but thankfully the building still stands. Very nicely prepared race MGB Roadster as well. Thought this section would be busy around here. There's usually a few cars parked around here, but we'll skip over to this other little bit over here, and I can spy a really rather stunning Bentley 4.5 litre, might be a 3 litre, one of the two. 4-seater Tourer, as many of these cars were. I think that's probably an original. Once again, Bentley are making continuation versions of these cars to exact specification, but I think that is probably an original example, and that looks so sleek in black. Another really interesting car, one of the rarer cars here, Volkswagen XL1 prototype 3-cylinder diesel car by Volkswagen, 261 mpg. Quite an interesting story to that one. There's so many of these modern generation BMW M cars, they're really popular. Mercedes 190 just beyond the 2CV. Couldn't be two different cars, and it looks about a house long, this particular Rolls Royce. We've got another very unusual looking Elvis over here. I'd like to think I know quite a bit about old British cars like Elvis's, and I've never seen the designs of the fronts on the two cars that we just saw over there. And also this one has a different front, so maybe a continuation, maybe an original design drawing for a car that was never built. I really don't know. And this is a really interesting car here, a Gordon Keeble, another lovely 50s, 60s classic British sort of sports saloon coupe, you could say. Seen this car before, looks lovely on those steel wheels. E46 M3. Just next to the Mini we've got another Morgan Super 3, one of the three Thunder-powered Morgan three-wheelers. In this section we also find a stunning classic Ferrari. I believe this might be a 400 GT. It's quite a late production Ferrari for the Colombo V12 era, and it is very, very long. Being one of the later cars, a more streamlined design, you could say, a 2+2 as well, and a huge boot that has. Now it might be a 365 GT2 plus 2, or it might be a 400 variant, and I think it's still the Colombo V12, but it might be a slightly enlarged version, getting towards 4 litres, being that GT sort of car the Colombo was seeing. There's 3 litres and 3.3 in the racing cars, high revving. This will have a much more relaxed tune engine for long distance touring, so it might actually have a different model of engine, I'm not sure. Still Pininfarina design like all Ferraris of the era, and also sporting those really, really lovely Barani wire wheels, and that would be the perfect sort of car to pop down to Monaco in after showing it what is a very, very good event like today. Now I've got a lovely Volvo Amazon Estate over here with something quite unusual in the back of it, a little Ducati moped tucked in the back of that one. Shows this can be a very practical classic car where you can fit your little Ducati moped in the back of it. This looks a very nicely sorted car. A couple of subtle modifications. It's got an extra little rev gauge there and a very nice little door mirror there, and slightly wider, probably banded steel wheels. So there's a few mods going on with this one, but it's very tastefully done. Could also say it's a resto mod, even though it's probably just a one-off enthusiast doing his own thing, as opposed to a actual company doing it for a profit, which is usually what a resto mod would be. But that would be such a practical old car. Really like that one. Outside the Motorsport UK building we find a absolutely stunning 1930s BMW motorcycle.
Don't need it.
Now the Haggerty Drivers Club building is always somewhere worth popping in, because last time they had some stunning Ferrari 275s and they got a fantastic setup here at Bicester. So what do they have? It's another resto mod, this time a Tolman edition of the original Peugeot 205 T16. Another brilliant resto mod, trading hands for eye-watering sums, but what a car it is. And I also didn't realise there is a resto mod of the Mini Cooper S, the BMW Mini. Did not realise they were getting resto modded. And Frontline, who did the MGA we saw earlier, also do a very, very nice MGB. And these also have an eye-watering price tag, as do a lot of the cars we're seeing here today. And just next to the pool table we have the new Renault 4, a very talked about car. The retro styling once again from Renault. What a lovely Datsun 240Z that is. Another example of a classic GT with some very tasteful mods. It looks like we have some kind of tribute to historic drag racing. Got a few classic pre-war hot rods, then a few purpose-built drag cars here. This is an interesting one. Interesting 4-cylinder engine, supercharged. Got a huge supercharger hanging off the front of that one with 2 carburetors feeding it. It might be like a Ford Model A engine or something similar. I'm not sure about that one. And then the other one's got an Offenhauser tuned flathead V8 in that one, so that would go quite well. But I imagine these would be interesting to drive. You're sat right at the back. Now I know this building, until quite recently, was the site of the Motorshed vintage car dealership, but there seems to be a few more modern electric cars dotted around the front of it, so maybe a change of ownership. The Motorshed is still operating, I believe. Yeah, there's still plenty more to be seen from the October 2025 Bicester Sunday Scramble. Just on the left here we have the Little Car Company. I've looked at their stuff plenty of times before and it really doesn't get old. They make, I think, half time size vintage racing cars and classic racing cars, and they've got a new one here which is interesting to see. These pass hands for roughly, I think, 60 or 70,000 pounds. Bugatti Type 35. These are all electric engine powered. And they've actually just come out with a road legal, I think also 0.7, I think these are 3/4 size, yeah, 0.75 Bentley, which is just an unbelievable electric replica of a Bentley blower. If these little ones are sort of 70, 80, 90,000 pounds, I dread to think how much that one would be, but what a cool thing to drive that would be. And you've got a couple more of the little ones here. These ones are all over the internet, on their social media. They get absolutely everywhere, these little cars. And this is, I think, where they manufacture them, in somewhere in those buildings there. There's another Frontline MGB. I saw online there was an MGB RESTOMOD that was priced at £170,000 or something. I'm not sure whether it was a Frontline, but it was along those lines, because there's an unbelievable amount of re-engineering. As you can see, they're just showing the amount of re-engineering that goes into updating them to make them the best possible incarnation of an MGB GT. So yeah, you can have your own opinions about the prices of some of these RESTOMODs. New Alfa Romeo over there, haven't seen one of those before. Looks like a modern day Alfa Romeo dealership stand or something similar around this section. One car I do like modern era Alfa Romeo is those Giulias. I think they are very good looking cars indeed. Usually, I mean, I keep saying there's usually a few interesting cars dotted in this section. There's interesting cars everywhere. It's the Bicester Scramble. And let's see what we can find around here. This is the Blue Diamond service and repair sites for vintage Riley cars. There'll be a few of those dotted around. We've had a look at most of them at previous scrambles, so I won't dwell too long on the Rileys. There are some lovely ones over there. Just check out this section first. This is one of the more central sections. Got the Bedford CA there converted into a coffee truck over there. Lovely Morris Cooper-esque, maybe an original rally car. This one works, Austin Rally maybe. Certainly looks very period correct. I've seen some pretty cool cars in there. This is an unusual car. It's a Riley, yeah. What an unusual body that is. You can see people peeking through this window. I can see a Cobra on the lift up there, potentially an original AC Cobra, and on the floor below there is a Jaguar C-Type just casually in there, and oh wow, there are some cars in there. There's a Ferrari 250 GT, the first one there, and some kind of 50s racing special at the back there. That looks to be a Maserati or Ferrari. I think that might be Ferrari, looking at the design of the steering wheel and dials of that one. So some kind of 50s Ferrari, 250 GT and a C-Type up front, and a Cobra on top. That is quite the collection tucked away there. I think there's also been a change of hands with this building here. This used to be the Austin Pedal Car Company, who recreate Austin J40s and also restore J40s and Pathfinders, like I am at the moment. But I know these Minis are continuation cars, I think, from Austin themselves. Maybe an offshoot of the Austin Pedal Car Company. I'm not sure if they're doing this as well, but it looks as if this is their new HQ, at least for, I mean, they're not that much bigger than the pedal cars to be fair, but looks to be for the continuation Minis. They are fantastic little cars. I don't know how much they are. 70 or 80,000 comes to mind. Obviously they're not cheap, but it is basically a new car, so really cool though. I could actually just see, peeking through here, there is still some remnants of the Austin pedal car history with that J40 over there. So yeah, there are some unbelievable cars tucked away in that building. You can still see people crowding in there. And we've got some more lovely cars and memorabilia actually tucked away in this building here. I can see a classic V12 Ferrari, in the closest door to me. We'll have a look at that first. This is Broad Arrow, which I think is an American auction house that is set up over here in the UK. And they've got their setup here with some very, very tasty cars for sale. Up front and centre is that Jaguar XK120. Not just another XK120, that's a super early alloy bodied one. There's a 911 over there as well. If we just look through the window here, classic V12 Ferrari 365, something by the looks of it. There's also a brilliant Chevy Corvette Stingray race car from 1963, period race history with that one, which is pretty cool. Porsche GT3 RS, a pairing of GT3 RSs actually. These are extremely popular cars. There's a proper retro 993 generation wide body RWB Rao Welt racer there. And a much more subtle, you could argue, 911 in this corner. You really do need to explore every nook and cranny of the Bicester Scramble, and just through there I spy a Jaguar XJR15 V12 Le Mans car casually just hiding in this building. Mercedes Pagoda, classic 60s SL Mercedes there, and this looks to be maybe an Austin 7 chassis. I think that is an Austin 7 chassis, bit of a resto project for sure there. Just over here we find, I've seen these cars a few times before. I think this is certainly a continuation for GT40, and I'm not sure whether this is an original or another replica slash continuation GT40 Ford. Got a great looking little Austin 7. This is the old Austin 7 twin cam special. I was just talking about Austin pedal cars. Of course, we're doing up the Austin Pathfinder, and the Pathfinder is based on this exact car. So it's quite interesting to see the real car that the old Austin pedal car is based on. It looks absolutely lovely in this shade of British racing green. Lovely, lovely Jaeger dials. Very small car, but really, really nice. And very, very similar to the shape of the pedal car I'm slowly working my way through. Yeah, it's interesting to see this is the proper twin cam special, the original body. And that one has a 2019 reg on that GT40, so that one is probably a continuation. Moggy Traveller and a 1040, a Clifton maybe that one. And that looks quite a presentable and usable Riley saloon over there. And a very low, look how low that is, Austin 7 there, and I suppose this one is equally low. This one, single cam 750cc special. This is the basis of the Heritage Skills Academy, and looks like this is a Lotus Europa. Wow, I've never seen one of these without the whole body on, to be honest. It's interesting to see this is a Lotus Europa S2. Looks to be a resto project undertaken by the Heritage Skills Academy. What an interesting chassis it is. Really, really unusual shape. I've never seen that. That's so interesting to look at. What a wild design it is. We've also got quite an interesting looking old bike over there. I like the mount for the, well, looks to be a wine bottle on the frame of that one, but what an interesting chassis. Never realised it was this interesting, the Lotus Europa. That's a brilliant little thing as well, a little BSA drag motorbike. Lovely little Ginetta over there as well. I think that is also another continuation car of the original Ginetta. There's so many different resto modders and continuating people out there. Austin 7 Swallow Saloon, based on the typical Austin 7 box saloon, but a really much curvier and gorgeous shape really. And this here in front of me is an Austin 7 Ulster, much more conventional shape, in an MG TC, I think that one is. Ultima GTR, that looks wonderful in the Marlboro livery. What's quite funny about Marlboro is all the old McLaren F1 cars that are still running originally would have had a similar livery, but because, I don't know, I guess it's cigarettes, isn't it? They can't put Marlboro on the cars anymore, so you see the old McLaren F1 cars where it should say Marlboro, just looking a bit plain, but I've just seen this. I've seen this car before, a Buick Super 8, but I never realised that it had a side opening bonnet. It's a straight 8 engine, huge unit, really is, but I never realised the bonnet opened sideways on this fantastic 1950s American saloon. Cool car here, a 1973 Mazda RX-4, another crazy, crazy rare car. And there's an RX-7 and an XKR Jaguar over there. This is a very cool 1980s Porsche as well. A 924 Carrera GTS Evo. Super cool bodywork on that one. Another fantastic wide body Porsche 911. I've seen that one quite a few times before, actually. There's no real method to the madness of navigating the Bicester Scramble. I just see something nice and tend to walk over there. I guess I'm laughing at the car behind the A40 Devon and this A40 Devon because there's quite a car behind it. But first of all, what a wild Austin A40 Devon. And this car here might take the crown for the car I'd have to have from today. This is nothing short of phenomenal, I'd argue. A Ferrari 250 California. There's not a lot really more to say about a car like this, is there? Just look at it. Wow. This is why the Bicester Scramble's so good. You get some proper cars turning up. What a machine that is. Some really impressive cars here. Mercedes AMG CLK Black Series. Real weapon of a car. Very well regarded car in a Jaguar F-Type Project 7.
What you want is that Bamboo 2CV.
Bamboo 2CV and a Chevy Camaro convertible. And up front and centre on the Alpha stand we had that really lovely, I think I've seen that before actually, Alpha Sud. Over there, there's a 911 Porsche that's already leaving. Weirdly, there's another selection of Alfa Romeo cars and Ineos cars, Ineos Grenadiers, which are quite popular cars actually. A few 90s cars dotted around here, and what a great looking car this is. This is a Bentley Continental T, I believe. It's quite funny, I actually know the guy who designed this car quite well, and if he happens to be watching, you've done a pretty good job. I'd say, is it a Continental T? If I've got it wrong, I look like an idiot. Is it like an Arnage or something different? It might be actually, I'm not sure, but it's certainly a early 2000s, very late 90s era Bentley, which looks absolutely wicked. Another example of an absolutely jaw-dropping British sports car slash GT from a similar period is that really rather stunning, isn't it? In green and tan interior, lovely metallic green. You can just see the sun reflecting off in it there, looking beautiful. This is a DB7 Vantage, is it? Don't actually know that too well. I believe this is a Vantage model. It just looks amazing. No, it doesn't have any badges on the back. Well, I think that is a Vantage. That one, a little Marcos, that would go well actually. That's got a 3-litre V6 in it actually. These often had 4-cylinders, but a V6 in that would go really quite well. Another very popular car, a Porsche Carrera GT, one of the only Porsches I think to be sold with a V10 engine and a manual gearbox. Pretty cool. This is also the Riley Blue Diamond workshop here. They've got a lovely Riley TT Sprite just in front. And they've actually got an Austin in here, and they do all sorts of stuff. Oh yeah, not one Riley. I can see a Lanchester, the back of a Lanchester there. That looks really lovely, and a equally lovely, if not more lovely, Jaguar XK120 Roadster, and a Series 2 Jaguar E-Type there as well. This era of Mercedes SL is also really popular at the moment, definitely. An appreciating classic. This is like a future classic sort of section, isn't it? The TVR T350T, I think that one is, and a E39 BMW M5 with an Alpha GTV in front. Great examples of cars that are just multiplying in popularity at the moment. That theme continues with a Ford Escort RS. You could also argue that these are getting pretty close to their peak of interest. Those are absolutely idolised by a lot of people. Now, the last time I was here, this was the Classic Performance Engineering Shop, which is a really great historic race car prep. But now this also looks to have changed hands, and now we've got a Polestars here, mono-electric cars. That's quite cool, isn't it? The Dakar style Polestar. See what else we can find around here. Saab 900 Cabriolet, Alpha 4C. Really unusual Alpha hatchback here. It's like a 146 or something, really unusual model, that one. Got a BMW M3 race car over there. That looks brilliant in that livery. I do like an E46. Porsche 997 over there, and a lovely, lovely looking V12 Vantage Aston. These are one of my favourite cars from Aston Martin. There's a very iconic Top Gear film of these. The V12 Vantage, very iconic bit of TV. And it really deserves it, because what a car that is. That with a V12, that light, small car as well by modern standards, with a 6-speed manual would be phenomenal. A few more wonderful looking classic BMWs, the 635 CSI. There are a few interesting cars around here, and a collection of Lotus or Lotuses, or just Lotus, don't even know the plural, down there. But in this building here, another one of the really cool weathered original World War II buildings. Certainly last time, as I've noticed, there have been a few changes of ownership. There used to be some stunning cars in there, and I think the company is still going, hopefully, because there are some very tasty cars behind these walls. The old Blast House, and well, we've got a very tasty guy. I'm sure you can tell my taste in cars if you've been watching this video, or if you've been watching me for a while. It's the 50s sports cars, one of my favourite eras, and that is a 50s sports car, Jaguar XK120 Roadster. Looks like it's still going Pendine historic cars for road and track. This is a bit interesting. What is this? Looks Italian designed. Fraser Nash. That's interesting. So a British car, and I imagine British design then. Fraser Nash, very well known in the pre-war era, but I've never seen what looks to be an early 1950s Fraser Nash. Some lovely, lovely interior dials. Look at that interior, and a nice little stopwatch down there as well. Sliding windows, proper lightweight car. Being a Fraser Nash, this could have a twin cam 4 or 6 cylinder. I know nothing about this car, nothing at all, because it's probably the only one left. Super rare car. It's really small actually, and it's a wonderful, wonderful shape. I really love that. One of the most unusual cars of the day. Must be some good stuff in there. We'll have a look in a mo, but outside as well there is some very good stuff. Bit more Alphaholics goodness. We saw the Alphaholics Giulia earlier, and this is also Giulia, but this is the 2-door coupe version, you could say. Very nicely sorted car. And here, this is another one of Pendine's cars. Really cool actually. 1967 Series 1 Jaguar E-Type. An original Californian market left-hand drive car, which I think is quite cool actually. Being left-hand drive, a car like this. I know a lot of people don't like left-hand drive, but I think it's quite cool really. Lovely interior, lovely car. Looks to be a road race spec. Looks like a bit of tuning going on, and that Fraser Nash is something special. I'm just going to have a little peek through here, because I remember last time in here, well, I can see gull wing doors already, so there must be something pretty tasty. Let's see what is here in the Pendine shed, and there's some pretty tasty stuff. Up front we have the Bugatti Type 35. That looks a wonderful vintage racing car. Jaguar XJ220 there in blue. Ferrari 365 by the looks of it over there. Another lovely V12 classic Ferrari GT. and Mercedes SLS down there, and a Jaguar XK120, and a little mini rally car over there. And there's an Aston at the back, but the main car, the main attraction, just hiding over there, has to be the 300 SL Gullwing Mercedes, mid-1950s in date. What a car that is. As I said, it's the 50s British GTs for me that really does it, and we got another brilliant example of a 50s British GT. This is quite a nicely sorted actually, a few upgrades on this one. AC Asica, interestingly left-hand drive as well, so US market most likely at a guess. Hopefully you guys agree that these old 6-cylinder British GTs are the bee's knees. Bit of rhyme in there as well. Looks to be on maybe very slightly wider wheels, maybe very slightly lower. Got some Go Faster stripes on it as well. Another Pendine historic car. Oh, a Asica V8. This is interesting. 1955 AC Asica, pretty typical. Transformed with a period correct Ford Boss 302 cubic inch HOV8, originally developed for the Trans Am racing series. Well, this is effectively a Cobra GT then. the AC Ace, which is the convertible variant of these. Originally with a Bristol or Ford 6-cylinder, was the basis for the Cobra, which we all know so well, Shelby Cobra, AC Cobra, etc, etc. This one, with its lovely twin side pipes, has a 302 cubic inch V8 in it, which isn't as big. Well, it's, yeah, the first Cobras were 289, so it's slightly bigger than the first Cobras, and then the later ones are 427. But it's basically a Cobra GT, this one clothed, disguised as a British 6-cylinder, and for £95,000, I know it's not a small amount of money, but I thought Seekers were more than that. Maybe this one is more affordable because it is non-original, but you'd struggle to find something on par with that for around that sort of price point, I think. What a car. There are some really tasty cars dotted around here, especially inside that building. The Gullwing might take the trophy, although I do like obscure, rare cars like this Fraser Nash, and also this a Seeker with the V8. What a car. Just beyond the lovely GTV Alpha, we find this really cool retro BKCC car almost, or DTM car. I'm sure people who know will know that. Mercedes 190E, DTM, a German touring car racing series, BTCC the British equivalent. The M4 is making quite a burble. 911 Carrera GTS, a fantastic long distance modern GT. Still so much more to look at. Lamborghini Diablo over there, quite a car. Porsche Spider, and a really lovely, very original as well, Lancia Fulvia, very original little car, that one. And this is an interesting car. This is a Morris 1300 Estate, almost like a shooting brake actually, being a 2-door Estate. This is really cool. I really like that. What a sharp looking little car that is. I really like that. This is the Kingsbury Race Shop, Bentley specialist, and they've got that rather amazing 4.5 litre, I think, and that is not a lot of silencing on that E30. That's the loudest one of those I've heard. Just beyond that really sharp looking 1970s Audi, we have a very cool setup with the bay window VW camper towing all the kit, and this very sharp and looks really sort of scruffy, but in a good way, really original and weathered, I think is the word to describe this really cool Porsche 911. Almost like a tribute to a race car, but those exhausts look pretty open, and I imagine that's probably one of the more interesting 911s, one of the ones that has a more interesting story compared to all the restored ones. Some great early stuff over here. Look at this Royal Enfield. I don't even know what the word is, sort of people carriage or something. I don't even know. We got a single cylinder, looks at it. I mean, struggling to identify a lot of the things on this one just because it looks maybe late teens, something around there. I'm sure that would be a bit of fun to ride. Similar to early tricycles, it'd often be the missus riding on the front of it. Of course, Royal Enfield made bicycles and tricycles of that era as well. A lovely Royal Enfield flat tanker motorbike, a really small one. Actually, I've never really seen a flat tanker that small. It really is tiny. And a very nice pre-war Aston Martin. Stunning car. This looks to be another continuation, the brilliant Royal Enfield drag motorbike. That is proper 30s to 50s streamlining. One of many pre-war Bentleys here today. This is also a Kingsbury Racing Shop, either operated or tuned car. This one, a full-blown, excuse the pun, blower, a Mark IV supercharger. Twin SU carburetors feeding the supercharger on this pre-war racer. one of the most successful cars at Le Mans, certainly in the pre-war era. That's a rare car, the Jensen Healey. Nice selection of your more typical classic cars, you could say. Peugeot 205 XS, I love that. What a cool, like a little car that is. Immaculate in red. Saw that Mustang race car over there coming in. Saw quite a few of these cars coming in on our way here. Actually, the wonderful looking VW as well. Rear engine, of course. Ford Anglia, C-Reg. Don't know why, but I always like the look of the C suffix on cars. I think it's because any pre-66 racing car series, they're all on Cs, so I think that just makes cars look a little bit like race cars, in my opinion. So that's why I like our Triumph Herald with the mini lights and stuff. With a C-Reg, it just looks like a little race car. This is a Peugeot Automatique, and I have no idea what model it is. It says TI on the back then, which might suggest... oh, Peugeot 504, there you go. Peugeot 504 Automatic. These, I think, are Pininfarina designed. Well, they're at least Italian designed. I think they're really good looking cars, actually. Really distinctive cars as well, this era. That's really cool. TR7 Triumph. Mark MX-5, I've seen so many of these here today. Another really tasty 105 series Alfa Romeo on those lovely Alfaholic steel wheels. Really cool Ford Cortina Mark 1. Great rat rod look on that one. Another Fiat 500 L for Luxurio, or whatever Italian is for luxury. I love these Lotus Elans. That with twin exhaust pipes. Just a little subtle mod. I think they would have been only single at first. That looks so good though. Absolutely tiny car. They look really good in proportion when you just look at them, but when you place them next to any other car, they are absolutely tiny. Then again, it is placed next to a Fiat 500, so it's probably the one case where an Elan actually looks normal, if not slightly large size. This sort of thing over here as well is another semi-achievable dream car for me. This particular one looks to be either an Alvis Speed 20 or a Speed 25. The Speed 20 had a smaller six-cylinder, the 25 had a larger capacity six-cylinder of about 4.3 litres, I think. And the Speed 20 might have started with something like 3 litres. Got twin spare wheels in the arches of this one, sorry, in the wings of this one. So this is actually quite a high-end body on this particular one. I mean, no Alvis is going to have a scruffy body on it, but this is certainly one of the more expensive bodies you could have opted for when it was new. This one is a Speed 25 Charlesworth Saloon from 1938. I just love the look of this era of car, especially the Alvises with those wonderful Lucas King of the Road headlamps, all the chrome, the twin spot lamps, the twin horns on the front, totally symmetrical and very nice, and of course the Alvis mascot on there. What is this Ford? It's like a El Camino or something, but it was a Chevy El Camino. It's like a pickup at the back. That's an interesting one. Just beyond the VW split window. Is this a... I was going to say Studebaker, but this is a Packard 1948. What a wild looking car that is, from South Carolina. Clearly a restored car, or at least repainted. Don't know if it's totally been apart. That is crazy. What a car. Datsun 240Z, another 105 series Alpha. They look lovely in that colour as well. I mean, any colour they look good. And a Triumph Herald convertible, nice little mini on the end. Heard something firing up over here, and it sounds like a lot of backfire, so something maybe quite early, so we can go and have a look over there. We can go via this lovely pair of really original and scratchy pre-war cars. Austin, closest to us, maybe an Austin 16, looks quite a large model. There's a Ford Cortina Crayford as well over there, which is a rare car. That looks brilliant in its original paint under the tree. And a Ford Model A four-seater, two-door saloon there, also suitably oily raggy. This is the Starter Motor Club stand promoting career opportunities in the historic car sector. Got a great selection of all sorts of old cars around here. My favourite of which is this lovely old MG Saloon. That is very, very nice, and must be a recent restoration because that is immaculate. And look at this, a cut in half MGB Roadster. I don't know whether this is an original factory sort of research and development car or a demonstration car. It makes sense if it was an original Abingdon promotional car. It's really interesting to have a look at, especially to see, you know, the most useful bits. If you're an MGB owner, you're sort of looking at the wiring behind the dash and the similar things if you're trying to sort your one out. This MGB sounds properly sorted. That is crisp. Another beautiful pair of classic GTs, starting off with this, the Aston Martin DB Mark III. That looks really actually cool in the sort of weathered, patinated look, painted wires, with a little bit of paint flicking off. That looks like a properly used car. Debumpered as well, so maybe for a little bit of light competition, this car maybe. A very valuable car, these actually, and very, very powerful and very, very nice indeed. Really, this is really nice. I wouldn't be surprised if this is original paint. It looks really nice original car. Nice original seats and interior. And I wouldn't be surprised, yeah, if this was original paint. Tickford bodied. Lovely, lovely shape. And this looks to be quite an original old car as well. Lovely post-war Bristol. Once again, great cracked original seats. Speaking of original scratchy paint, there's a stunning Survivor over here. I had a look at the 4.5 litre or 3 litre Bentley alongside. This looks to be another 4.5 litre. Lovely, lovely saloon. Great patinated paint and chrome, or brass I suppose actually it is, the rad. That is just great. How cool is that in that condition? This old Bentley saloon has the nicest interior as well. Reflections are not helping out, but it's just got the loveliest original interior. We got an example of one that we just looked at earlier, very nicely restored, but for me it's got to be that original one. This Testarossa looks superb with those maybe slightly more proud set of twin exhausts and those lovely alloy wheels. Now everyone, we move on to the fun of effectively a whole other car show. There's actually a huge gathering of Jaguar XJS's. I don't know if there's an anniversary for those or something, but over here we've got all sorts of stuff. I'll have a quick whiz around. I really don't have time to show everything because there's just so much, but this is the public car parks. This is just people who've come not to exhibit but just come here and happen to come in an old car, and they'd be directed to this section, which is the classic section of the public car park effectively. Look at that M535i on BBS wheels. Very, very nice. A really rare little Toyota as well. That's really cool. Opel Manta, very old, early one there. Honda Civic Shuttle, perhaps a bit of alcoholics treatment on that 105 step nose. Jag E-Type 2+2, that one. A lot of people leaving already, considering it's barely 12:30 and the event goes on until about 3. Lovely Carrera 911. This is interesting, old Lancia Beta. Very rare car. Another E28 BMW. Sort of cars that are really popular at the moment, those. 911S Porsche. Sudden bout of wind we've got here. There's a Mark II Triumph GT6 over there. An array of Volkswagen Beetles. This looks very smart. Sunbeam Rapier on the end here. Triumph TR7. I've seen a few TR7s today actually. One of many 911 RESTOMODS Porsches, an SL. This is an interesting car. This looks to be an Elvis TF21, and on an E-Reg this will be one of the very last cars Elvis ever built. Elvis was bought by Rover in 1965, and I think E is 1965 or 66, somewhere around there. Yeah, lovely, lovely car, but one of the latest ones I've ever seen, that one. Bright green BMW Z3 with a bright green hardtop. So much here, really, really is. Oh wow, look at that. Oh wow, there's a Traction Avant over there. That's quite a cool car, but lovely. V8 Vantage Aston Martin in red. Very, very cool. So many BMWs and so many Porsches around today. Probably the two most popular marques for car enthusiasts nowadays. We followed that Daimler 250 over there on the way in. Sounded very tasty actually. There's a Morris Minor over there. It's quite nice wide wheels, that one actually. And the E30 Estate here, very, very sharp. Volkswagen Scirocco. Sounding very burbly. Beetle in green. A very sharp looking MG Magnet over here. I do like a MG Magnet. I think they're very nice cars. Very usable effectively with a B series. That's very nice, that. I like that. And next to that is an immaculate green Metro. We also passed this very sharp 2002 BMW on the way in. Ooh, the camera strap is blowing around a bit. Maybe I should put it around my head. Fiat Panda 4x4, that one also passed us. And the notchback VW. There's all the accessories going on that 4x4 Panda. I like the light bar on the roof of that. And this is a very, very sleek Series 1 E-Type. I love that. A Hawk replica. I think it's a replica. Probably is. Never know with Cobras, there's so many replicas. Lovely, yeah, 289 replica, so a bit less wild, wide arches, a little bit more subtle than the likes of the 427. Now this actually, is it an original? I know Hawk replicas are extremely convincing, but this one is convincing almost to the point that it could be original. You can often tell by the interiors. Yeah, it looks roundabout right in there as the 5 Series over there departs, but I wouldn't be surprised actually. I know I said it was a Hawk, it might still be, but it also might on a C-Reg be an original 289, which is quite a car. Back at the Beetles, I can see, oh yeah, I think we followed a green V8 MGB GT on the motorway. That one was a non-V8. Look at this though, 190 SL Mercedes, absolutely divine looking cars, really, really perfect looking car. 300 SL looks on a budget, you could say just the 4 cylinders in these. 300 SL multi-million pound cars, now these 100,000, I don't know, a lot of money, but you could argue maybe if you bought one you could say to your wife it was a bargain. At least I didn't spend 1.2 million on a 300 SL, I don't know. Look at this though over here, Aston Martin DB6. The funny thing about these is the Aston Martin DB5 is about £600,000 to buy. The DB6 under 200, and it's a bit mad really, isn't it? I know it's because of the Bond connection and all that, but the DB6 and especially the Vantage is literally a better car than the DB5, you could argue. I know it doesn't look quite as sleek as the DB5s, and a lot of people say with this back, but these are, yeah, interesting cars, and they're actually quite a fancy one because they're, oh yeah, you can't see a lot of the interior of those reflections, but they're basically as good as a DB5, if not very slightly better, because they're longer wheelbase and you can fit more in them. It's a better GT really, just because James Bond didn't drive one. This is a lovely example which looks to be in potentially original paint, certainly original wheels. There's a lot of original features going on this one, but yeah, I could be quite tempted by something like that. I know it's a bit ambitious, but it's basically just as good as a DB5. They're super underappreciated, these. And what a lovely interior it is. One of the few things I quite fancied in the Auto Jumble was actually one of these, a DB6 badge. Saw one in the Auto Jumble which I might have to ask about later. But I really like that. I think that's such a good looking car, and I know people don't like them because they're not a 5, but look at it, it's just gorgeous, isn't it? Now there have been quite a few of the old cars that have left, but some of those places have been replaced, and we've found another stunning Aston Martin DB6. This one looks to be in restored condition. The other one was a little bit patinated, potentially original, certainly an older resto. This one looks pretty fresh, to be honest. Also a Superleggero. I still think they're great looking cars, really do. That's interesting, it's automatic. Didn't know these came in automatic. I think I'd have a manual one, but that's probably not a decision I'll be ever mulling over, to be honest. But what a lovely looking car, isn't it? There's another old Bentley here, either a 3 or 4.5 litre. And another car that's just turned up is this very handsome AC Seeker. I've seen just the other one, AC Seeker, but this one it does not have a 302 cubic inch V8. This one will have the standard, although maybe a bit tuned, Ford or Bristol inline 6-cylinder. Lovely painted wire wheels, great 50s bucket seats, very powerful car. Even with the original engine, that Ford one would go really well, but this one would still pick up very well. Well everyone, we're going to end where we started. Just give you a minute to walk over there past this wild jet drag race. Of the speeds those things are doing at the end of the strip is unbelievable. I think just caught a glimpse, the 0 to 60 is about a second, which is not a lot of time for quite a lot of speed. Do let me know what your favourite car was. For me, the obvious ones are the blue Alvis TD21 Graber, that beautifully modified one, the 300SL Gullwing, the 250 California. There really have been so many cars, and on the more achievable end, I'd absolutely love a vintage Bentley like this one, a Derby Bentley 3.5, 4.5 litres. I think they're just gorgeous cars, I really do. I'd love to drive those, proper gentleman's sports saloon. But do let me know your achievable dream car and your non-achievable dream car in the comments below, and also let us know what took your fancy from the October 2025 Bicester Scramble, the last Sunday Scramble of 2025, and I'd argue it's one of the best I've ever been to. The E-Type Roadster has gone, but this very nicely prepared fixed head is still here. Yeah, make sure to subscribe, check out the channel homepage. Be interested to see, I think this guys have a YouTube channel. Let's have a little look, because it would be quite interesting to follow this crazy build. Signature Customs. There you go. That would be a entertaining car to drive with that engine all linked up. That would actually be really good altogether. I love those filthy Dakar Safari, actually they say on the side. Porsches as well. Great to see cars like that being used. So do all that, and I think that is pretty much it from today's walk around. Thank you very much for watching this video, and goodbye for now.